Well, welcome back. This is the second of a three-part series exploring the birth of Huntington Beach, the most populous beach city in Orange County, and now officially recognized as Surf City, USA. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Like my other videos in this series, I have colorized and enhanced each of the following historic images, not to alter the past, but to bring them to life and make them more relatable. No disrespect intended to the original photographers. I have fond memories of Huntington Beach, having grown up in nearby San Clemente. As a San Clemente junior lifeguard in the mid-60s, we competed against the Huntington Beach junior lifeguards both at my hometown in San Clemente and on the beach just south of the Huntington Beach pier. It was at one of these competitions at Huntington in the mid-60s that I had the opportunity to get a glimpse of the legendary Hawaiian waterman Duke Kahanamoku. Originally settled by the Aboriginal Tongva people, the area was eventually occupied by the Spanish, which in turn became a series of Mexican ranchos. Both the La Bolsa Chica and the Las Bolsas ranchos eventually became Huntington Beach. At the turn of the century, agriculture was king. Alluvial deposits from the Santa Ana River and surrounding watersheds, including sand, silts, and clays, created just the right conditions for growing a variety of crops. One of the earliest pioneer families to settle in the area was the Newland family. Purchasing 500 acres of the former Rancho La Bolsa Chica in 1897, William Newland had his house constructed on the mesa and began the daunting task of clearing and draining the bottomland below. Here is a dredging machine used to dig canals and help drain the lower-lying swampy peat bogs. I believe that's a Holt steam Caterpillar tractor pulling the dredging machine. They would later become the extremely successful Caterpillar Manufacturing Corporation. Check out the dredging machine operator at the controls in the upper right corner. As it turned out, the local peaty soil produced excellent crops of celery, sugar beets, lima beans, and chili peppers. The higher ground on the mesa was used to grow feed grains like barley. Here's a crew harvesting celery in Wintersburg in about 1910. There were a number of realtors that specialized in selling farmland, and in particular, celery land, as they called it. Although this marshy soil was great for growing celery, it became problematic for the newly constructed railroad lines. Here is the Southern Pacific Celery Line in Smeltzer circa 1901. This branch saw daily trains during the winter celery harvest, but dropped to twice-weekly service for the remainder of the year. In the middle of this map, you can see the Southern Pacific Rail Line extending south through the communities of Westminster, Smeltzer, Winterberg, and then down to Huntington Beach and south to Newport. This rail line was originally built by the Santa Ana Newport Railroad Company in 1897 and purchased by the Southern Pacific Railroad in 1899. It was at about this same time that the sleepy village of Shell Beach was transformed into Pacific City, and soon after that into Huntington Beach with the introduction of Henry Huntington and his Pacific Electric Railway. After forming the Huntington Beach Company and purchasing the bulk of the surrounding property, Huntington set out to create a seaside resort. In this shot, you can see the original wooden pier and the Pacific Electric Railway station on the right of the tracks, both built in 1904. On the north side of the pier, you can see the dance pavilion built in 1906, which lasted until 1938. Here is the First Christian Church, near the turn of the century bordering the Methodist tent city, an area that earned the nickname of the Gospel Swamp. The Evangeline Hotel was built in 1906 and was at the time one of Huntington Beach's finest hotels. The name Evangeline actually comes from a Latin word meaning gospel. The structure can still be seen on 421 8th Street and is a classic example of the craftsman bungalow style. Who needs a lawnmower, huh? The house you see here is located downtown at the corner of Walnut and 6th and was originally constructed in Santa Ana by Matthew and Mary Josephine Helm and was moved by mule team to its present location in Huntington Beach in 1901. Soon after, Matthew built the M.E. Helm House Furnishing Company directly next to his home. The company advertised that they had everything a pioneer needs. Both the residence and M.E. Helm Furniture Company are both listed on the National Register of Historic Places in Orange County, California. Where's Waldo? This store is the only surviving commercial building with the original Western false front architecture remaining in South and Central Orange County. And believe it or not, it is still owned by the descendants of Matthew E. Helm and is currently an antique store. Kind of fitting. On February 17, 1909, the city of Huntington Beach incorporated under its first mayor, Ed Manning. This shot was taken about 20 years later during a parade to honor Mayor Manning and the city's incorporation. Here is a gathering of city founders who campaigned and helped fundraise to rebuild the Huntington Beach Pier, which was destroyed by a series of storms in 1912. Charles Furuta, a pioneering first-generation Japanese immigrant, can be seen in the front row, second from the left. Ed Manning, the city's first mayor, can be seen in the second row, far right, with a light-colored suit. In the early 1900s, Charles and Yukiko Furuta immigrated from their home in Hiroshima, Japan, and settled in an area originally known as Wintersburg. In 1912, Charles purchased 5 acres of land where he and his wife built their house and farm you see here. Within months of settling into their home, the California Alien Land Law of 1913 was passed, which prohibited immigrants ineligible for citizenship from owning property. Regardless of these discriminatory laws, Wintersburg became a small Japanese immigrant farming community, with an estimated 300 Japanese immigrants calling Winterberg and the surrounding area home. This is Cole Ranch in Wintersburg. Over the years, hundreds of Tongva artifacts have been uncovered in the Wintersburg area, many of which are currently on display at the Bowers Museum. One of the big cash crops in Wintersburg was sugar beets. I found this shot and imagined it must have been a way to unload their crop onto a waiting train car. This was confirmed when I found the following 2 photos. Here is Charles Furuta driving a wagon load of beets up the ramp to deliver his harvest. At first, it looked like any other horse-drawn wagon. But on further inspection, it appears they devised an ingenious mechanism of ropes and pulleys, along with a wagon bed that rotated on its axis and dumped its load into a waiting car below. With the help of Charles Furuta, the Wintersburg Japanese Mission and Manse were constructed on a parcel which he eventually deeded to the church in 1912. This church is the oldest Japanese house of worship of any denomination in Orange County. In 1911, the Holly Sugar Plant was constructed at a cost of over $1 million to process the sugar beet harvest, which at that time was planted on nearly 30,000 acres spread over Southern California. This factory would become the primary industry in the local area. In this map, you can see that the Pacific Electric created a spur line in 1911 to serve the Holly Sugar Factory. After the discovery of oil in Huntington Beach in 1920, this factory was eventually converted into an oil refinery in 1923. In 1912, a series of winter storms destroyed the original wooden pier. Local community members immediately set out to raise money to build a new and much improved concrete pier. The banner in the background reads, "New $70,000 pier to be erected here at once. Bonds already voted." In 1914, the new public pleasure pier was completed. Built with reinforced concrete instead of wood, this pier was touted as the longest and highest pleasure pier in the country. The dedication ceremony took place in a 2-day celebration on June 20th and June 21st. The new pier was deemed the pride of the Pacific and measured in at 1,316 feet, just 4 feet shy of a quarter mile. It was reported that over 20,000 people came out to celebrate the opening of the pier, which included sporting events, musical concerts, and culminating in the grand finale, the illumination of the pier. Just north of this bandstand on the beach was a saltwater plunge completed in 1912. The heated saltwater pool was an important amenity at that time. Many homes at this time still lacked indoor plumbing. Contemplate that for a moment. While vacationing in Hawaii in 1907, Henry Huntington became enthralled by the sport of surfing, and in particular the skills of a 24-year-old Waikiki beach boy, George Freeth. Huntington hired Freeth to travel to the mainland to help promote his Redondo Beach resort and give demonstrations on surfing. By 1914, George was still traveling up and down the Southern California coastline, giving surfing demonstrations and lessons, and is recorded to be the first to surf at the Huntington Beach Pier during the dedication ceremony in June of 1914. This event was memorialized 100 years later in 2014 with a surf contest of sorts at the pier, put on by P.T. Townend and the Huntington Beach International Surfing Museum. Contestants were required to ride either an original antique wooden surfboard or a wooden replica board. I suppose it was quite fitting that the winner of the replica class was riding a replica board ridden by George Freeth in 1914. By this time, many of the dirt streets in town were oiled to keep the dust down, but not Main Street. In 1911, the town board decided to pave Main Street with wooden blocks. Yep, I said wooden blocks. 8 by 3 by 3 inch wooden blocks laid on a concrete bed. This actually lasted until 1927. Although there was only about 1,000 residents in the city of Huntington Beach at this time, it was determined that the local area was in desperate need of a centralized high school. Built in 1909, the Huntington Beach Union High School not only served students in the city of Huntington Beach, but those from surrounding areas of Fountain Valley, Westminster, Sunset Beach, and nearby unincorporated agricultural and residential areas. Huntington Beach got its first school bus in 1910. I wonder what that bus ride must have been like on the predominantly dirt roads at that time. Huntington Beach was the first beach city in Orange County to have a public high school, which was originally established in 1906. Here's a view of Ocean Boulevard. This street that parallels the shore was eventually paved and became the Roosevelt Highway in 1926. In 1941, it was renamed the Pacific Coast Highway. One thing that strikes me in this photo is the width of the street, identified as Pacific Boulevard. This was pretty forward-thinking, considering this photo was taken in 1907. I'm still trying to figure out what vantage point the photographer used to capture this image. At the corner of Main and Walnut could be found the unofficial City Hall after incorporating in 1909. Funny enough, it's located catty-corner from the original Pacific City Hall. This site would eventually be abandoned when the city completed its new City Hall in 1922. On the corner of Ocean and Main, you could find the Collins Brick Building. Over the years, this corner location hosted Vincent's Corner Confectionery and, of course, the local drugstore. As the 1920s were approaching, agriculture was still king in Huntington Beach and its surrounding rural communities. Here's a farmer growing lima beans using the dry farming method. The combination of coastal fog, winter rains, and clay soil allowed farmers to plant after the winter rain, depending entirely on stored water in the soil and dew from the coastal fog. Over the years, the Pacific Electric red cars made countless trips, ferrying visitors and vacationers to Huntington Beach. Both World Wars, an earthquake, the Spanish flu pandemic, as well as the Great Depression offered challenges to the Pacific Electric service over the years, but the Balboa Line, as it was called, remained operational all the way up until June 30th of 1950, when it made its last run. Well, like my last videos, I found I needed to break the story up into multiple parts as well, and I think this seemed like a logical place to end part 2. If you look closely, you'll see a couple hints of things to come. Can you spot them? In Part 3, we continue in 1920 with the discovery of black gold, or Texas tea, as they used to call it. This event would radically change both the landscape and direction the city would take for the next half century, soon becoming known as Oil City. Nearly a half century after that, Huntington Beach would begin to redefine itself again as Surf City, USA, something that really started way back in 1914 with the introduction of surfing by Hawaiian-born George Freeth. I would like to thank the many local historians, historical societies, and Facebook sites that have provided the bulk of photographs and historical information about events, names, places, and dates I have included with this colorful peek back into time. Keep in mind that this, like my other videos, is simply an attempt to bring to life these historical photographs and weave them together, along with a wee bit of local lore. If you are interested in the unique history of Huntington Beach and would like to know more, please consider becoming a member and donating to the Huntington Beach Historical Society. You can reach them at the link below. I'd be remiss if I failed to also mention the Huntington Beach International Surf Museum, located in downtown Huntington Beach. If you'd like to learn more about the local surf culture, you should visit the museum or at least check out their website. I've attached the link below. Well, again, thanks for watching. Aloha.